Hi boys and girls, this is Mrs. Marple from your art classroom. I'm actually videoing from my playroom at my house today. This is our Sunday art session because next week I'll be filming from my classroom. So I'll show you guys all around the art room so that when you guys get to come maybe later on this year or next year, you'll be familiar with what's in my room and how to use it. So what we're gonna do for this week's art activity is we are gonna be starting our journey in our art journals. So we're going to try to keep everything inside of our art journal that is considered a 2D project, so two-dimensional flat project. If we do things that are 3D, like clay or weavings or some other things like that, we will obviously not be putting those in our sketchbook, but just for the beginning, we're going to be keeping everything in our sketchbook. So you're going to need a couple of different things for this activity, and they will be provided to your classroom teachers. So I'm going to go over a list of things so you can make sure you have everything you need before we get started. The first thing you're going to need is paper. And I have already taken these large pieces and folded them for you and stapled. So you should already have a sketchbook to use. And we're going to be painting the front and the back of our sketchbooks. And we're going to be using tempera paint. And there's a lot of different kinds of tempera paint. This is tempera cake, so they start out dry. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna be using water at your table, and we always use cold water. We don't wanna use hot water because it's not very nice to the brushes that we're gonna use. And we wanna try to really take care of our material. So paint brushes and water, and that's really all you're gonna need for this. So this paint, unlike liquid tempera, you're gonna have to do something called waking it up. We're gonna wake up the paint, and the way we do that is with water. So you're gonna put water on your paintbrush, and then say, okay, so red here. And then you're gonna swirl it around. Now when you use your paintbrush, you wanna make sure that the color only gets on the fuzzy part. We wouldn't want it on the metal part or the wooden handle, because then it just becomes a mess. If it happens, we can clean up our mess and it'll be okay, but it's really important to remember to respect the supplies and to respect your artwork and everyone else's art experience too. So we want to be careful not to hurt the paints or the brushes or get any of this on someone else's paper. So when you use your paintbrush, you want to try to use the tips of your brush, kind of like a ballerina dancing on top of the paint, and then she dances across your paper. You don't ever want to scrub by jamming the brush down into the paint or down onto your paper, because then you can really hurt your brush, giving it a bad hair day, or you could rip a hole in your paper. So those are a couple of things to remember. So I'm gonna let you guys grab your materials really quick. You wanna make sure to cover your work surface since you're working in the classroom with paint. So you can either cover it with some roll paper or you can cover it with an old tablecloth. But you want to make sure that your space stays nice and clean for your other learning later on in the day. Okay, so I'll be right back with my setup so you guys can see how I'm going to paint. All right? Okay, welcome back. I'm hoping that you've got all of the supplies you need. Of course, if you're missing something, you could always email Mrs. Marple and she will get you whatever you need. On the supply list, I forgot to mention our messy mats or our placemats, which are just black pieces of long construction paper. And what we're gonna do is you're gonna slide this into the front of your sketchbook. So this is the cover, just the first page. I'm gonna slide that in there, kind of like a sandwich. We want that black piece to hang out the top, the side, and the bottom so that it helps keep our mess to a minimum. So I've got my paints, I've got my water and my brush in here. And now what I want you guys to do is remember those good rules of keeping our paintbrush nice and healthy, all of the hairs going the same direction, good hair day, and I'm going to wake up my paint. And you guys are going to be able to paint your sketchbook however you want, so you can use your favorite colors. You can paint the whole thing one color if you want to, but sometimes it's fun to mix, and you can draw things on this first with a pencil if you want. I'm just going to go ahead and start painting, and so I'm going to start with this really pretty red color. And you are welcome to mix these colors. I prefer that you mix them either on the paper, or if you mix them on the tray, that's okay too. You just need to make sure that you clean off your paint for everyone else. So now I'm gonna use this yellow. I cleaned out my brush in between colors, and I'm gonna paint on top of that red. I'm gonna make a pretty new orange color. So these are nice because they dry pretty fast. They don't stain, but you can use them pretty much for any art project. You can use them on paper, on cardboard. You can do a lot of things with these. So every time I change colors, I'm gonna go in and rinse my brush, and when I rinse it, I'm gonna swirl it in there, and I'm gonna drag it on the side so I can get any extra water out of there that I don't want. The more water you use on your brush, the lighter the color will be. If I want a really dark color, I would just use a little bit of water on my brush to make it a more intense color. The more water you add, the lighter your color will appear, and I'll show you that real quick. So I'm using this purpley magenta color, and I'm going to do a stripe right here. That's a pretty dark little stripe. Okay, and now I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dilute it, meaning I'm gonna add some water to it. I'm gonna fill my brush with water, and I'm just gonna take some more of that paint. I'm gonna do another stripe, and we'll see if it's lighter. You guys see how that's lighter in color? There's less pigment in this stripe because I used a lot of water and a little bit of paint. I've got this really dark stripe by using a little bit of water and lots of paint. And you can always overlap too. So say that you have a watery color and you really want it to be bright, you can overlap. Just go right on top, and you can wait for it to dry, or you can just paint over it while it's still wet. You see how that's much darker? I'm not using any extra water now. I'm just moving it around on my tempera paint disc to make that a more intense color. And after these colors dry, so like this one right here, I would probably want to wait for it to dry just a little bit more before I paint it on top. But you can always add color on top of colors that you've already done. So I'm going to use this red again and maybe do some polka dots on it. And if it's really wet, that color is going to spread. But you guys can have lots of different fun, either mixing the colors, doing patterns. You could paint people on here. You could paint different kinds of activities that you like to do. If you like to play video games, maybe your favorite video game character as long as it's school appropriate, maybe your favorite animal. So many different things. So I'm really interested to see what you guys end up with. So when you guys finish the front of your journal, you're gonna wanna let this dry. So this is a good 2-day activity. 1 day for the front and 1 day for the back, and your front and back can match or they can be completely different. So when you're painting the front, I want you guys to keep in mind that we are going to put your name on the front after this is all dried. I'm going to give you guys like a name tag sticker that you're going to be putting somewhere on the front of your sketchbook. But I want you guys to be able to paint the front and the back without any boundaries or restrictions. And then you'll get to figure out where you want to place your name tag after your front and back are all done. Because the covers will probably be so different, if you didn't have a chance to write your name on this, on the inside cover is what I would recommend. Write your name on the inside here, lightly in pencil, just so we can remember whose is whose. And then the next time you have art, we'll get you the sticker to put on the front. So you will always have this sketchbook to do your art activities inside. I hope you guys enjoy this. If you enjoy painting, let your teachers know, and I'll try to get more painting activities. You are going to be able to paint inside of your sketchbook as long as we use these messy mats. You can see here, we're just going to just put this in between the next page and do a different painting on another page. But I want you to remember that today and the next day you do art, I only want you working on the front and back cover. So we're not working on the inside pages yet. We need to save those for other assignments. Okay, well, I will see you guys soon. I hope you have fun. And remember that cleanup is a really big part of art as well. So when you're done with your art activity, it's nice that you can help clean up if you've made a mess, or maybe empty out the water or clean out the brushes. And when you clean out the brushes, remember to use cold water only. And I do something called the paintbrush test to make sure it's really clean. You're going to swirl it in your water, drag it on the side, get all the extra water out, and then I'm just going to paint on the back of my hand and make sure that's clean water. Okay, so if I had too much paint in here and I didn't clean it out very well and I painted on my hand, that's not clean. I failed the paintbrush test. I need to go back and re-clean my brush, drag it on the side, and try again. So that is clean, this is not. You want your brush to be nice and clean for the next time we use it. All right, have fun, guys.